Somewhere in Siberia, maybe 10,000 years ago, I don't know, I wasn't there. A shaman picks up a drum and starts to beat on it. A simple, slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it goes on a long, long time. People fall into a trance. For most of history, we have filed this sort of thing under mysticism, folklore, superstition, the kind of thing that we can safely study from an anthropological distance. But I'm thinking this is more like a technology. It's very calibrated. It's designed to produce a very specific neurological output, measurable. The shaman was initiating neuroscience, just without the MRI machine. That's what this video is about. Ancient people were not just stumbling about in spiritual confusion. Some of them, more than we give credit for, had figured out what sound does to the human brain, and they used that knowledge deliberately. This is the physics of magic. Let's stick with drums for a minute. I like drums. Your brain produces electrical activity in the form of patterns, right? Brainwaves. And different states of consciousness correspond to different frequencies, different wave frequencies. When you're awake, alert, focused, reading something, watching this video, you're producing beta waves, roughly 13 to 30 cycles per second. When you close your eyes and relax, you drift into alpha, 8 to 12 hertz, calm, still, present. But then there's theta, 4 to 8, really low. That's the weird one. Theta is a state right on the edge of sleep. The hypnagogic zone. That's a word. That's really a word. It's where you get those weird, vivid, half-dream images right before you go fully under. It's associated with deep meditation, creative breakthroughs, even memory consolidation. Some researchers out there think it's the state most associated with insight, those moments when answers just come full force. It's also the state in which shamanic drumming actually lives. That classic shamanic drum beat, documented over Siberian, Central Asian, even Native American traditions, sits right at 4 to 4.5 beats per second. It's not a coincidence, it's targeted. The brain has this tendency towards entrainment. I think I've talked about this before. If you give it an external rhythmic stimulus, it will actually synchronize its own electrical activity to match it. You're tuning your brain like an instrument. The drum, for instance, is a pitch pipe, and your nervous system is the string. So when the Siberian shaman sits with a patient and drums for hours, they're not waving woo-woo magic over them. They're methodically, deliberately, technically shifting that person's neurological state, opening a door in the brain that normal waking consciousness always tries to keep shut. I don't know if spirits walked through that door, but I know the door is real. "1,500 meters up the Peruvian Andes, there's a temple complex called Shavin Dewantar. It's about 3,000 years old. And in 2001, archaeologists excavated something inside it. 20 intact shell trumpets, Strombus galeatus, large conch shells, engraved, well used, and they seemed to have been intentionally buried. Some researchers from Stanford decided to actually try to play them and measure what happened acoustically. The trumpets, they're called patutus, and they produce fundamentals around 272 to 340 hertz. Yeah, that's right. A very strong projecting sound, directional. The inner sanctum of Shavin contains this narrow duct made of stone, 4.5 meters long. It tapers at a ratio of 3.6 to 1 from inside to outside. If you run acoustic analysis on that duct, it works like a filter, a music filter. It actually enhances or boosts the lower frequencies from 100 to 400 hertz. Exactly the patutu's fundamental. And it suppresses everything else. So you're suddenly hearing something very low and bassy, nothing else. It's focused. So when a priest would play the patutu inside the gallery, the sound would travel through the duct and come out the mouth of the central deity structure. This massive stone monolith called the, let me look at this word, lanzon, in the plaza outside. So to the people gathered there, the god was speaking. And this circular sunken plaza was designed to eliminate ambient sound. That's cool. It's natural noise reduction. Wind, birds, rustles, gone. All you hear is what the temple produces. And with certain rock formations nearby, researchers were able to measure echoes that lasted an entire 6 seconds long, which means a sound path over 2 kilometers. Stanford's team called it a neurological hacking device. The architects of Shavin didn't build a beautiful temple and then suddenly realize, oh, this has great acoustics. No, they built a sound machine and wrapped a temple around it. Different continent, different culture, working with the same principle. In the Republic of Tuva, southern Siberia, it's near Mongolia, there's a vocal tradition called kume, throat singing. You know it, we all know it. That beautiful, cool, low sound where a person seems to be producing more than one note at a time. It's gotten popular recently, especially after Umet Ozcan started singing that way over some of his music. I wrote an article about him and interviewed him a little bit in last year's or the year before that edition of Elevar Magazine, elevarmagazine.com. That's mine. You can go check it out. If you like music, especially heavy metal. He's not, but he's in there anyway because I like him. Okay, back to it. So the voice produces a fundamental drone, right? Very low, very stable. The singer then sort of sculpts the shape of their vocal tract, tongue, lips, jaw, to act as a band pass filter. This isolates individual harmonics from the overtone series, and then it amplifies them so you can actually hear it. So you're selecting single harmonics that were already there, hidden inside a single note. Then a musicologist named Valentina Suzuki discovered that the Tuvan relationship to sound was fundamentally different than the Western relationship. She interviewed a traditional instrument player who refused to play the strings of his instrument separately, because from his perspective, that made no sense. It was like chopping a word in half. He wasn't hearing 2 strings. He was hearing a unified single timbre, and she began calling this timbral listening, which is perceiving sound as a complex, volumetric whole rather than individual pitched lines. She described it as the difference between a snowball and loose snow. Same material, completely different structure. And then there's this story, I like this one. A throat singer named Tolya Kular would go to a river and just listen to it for a really long time. He did this before he started singing. Eventually, he would phase lock his voice to the frequencies of the water. the specific turbulence, the overtones of that river on that particular day, until his voice disappeared into the sound of the river. He was tuning in. Isn't that cool? There's a mode of listening that most of us trained in the Western tradition of pitch and melody have probably never practiced. One more, the Shipibo Conibo, people of the Peruvian Amazon. They have a tradition of healing songs called acaros. These songs are said to have been taught to healers by plant spirits, especially during ceremonies with ayahuasca. They're sung to diagnose and treat illnesses. I know how that sounds. I'm just the messenger. In Shipibo culture, songs and geometric patterns are understood as the same thing, two expressions of an underlying structure. They weave visual patterns that represent their songs. They sing songs that correspond to specific visual forms. When you think about somatics, I think the Shipibo figured out a version of somatics. Not with plates and sand, but with the human body. The idea was that a specific tonal pattern sung at a specific frequency produces a specific structural effect on biological tissue. So what do these things have in common? A Siberian shaman drumming at 4 beats per second, a Peruvian temple tuned like a concert hall, and a Tuvan singer phase-locking his voice to a river. They're all working with the same idea. Sound is not just a decoration. It's a force. And if you understand its physics, really understand it, you can do things with it that look, from the outside, like magic. What happened is that this knowledge never got written down. It lived in practice, in apprenticeships, in initiation. And when those lineages get broken by colonization, by forced conversion, a lot of the technical understanding just goes away with it. What survived in historical record got filed away as superstition or under religion, which are really just labels that we put on things we don't have a framework for yet. I think that's a genuine scientific tragedy, and I think that slowly we're starting to recover some of it. Archaeoacoustics is a real field now, and it's really interesting. It's one of my favorite subjects. So is neuroscience of meditation, which is a real thing. Somatics and acoustic levitation are active, studied areas of physics. The ancients were just working with physics, some with a little side dish of ayahuasca. I'll see you in the next one.